As I've probably mentioned before, my son was a completely out-of-the-box thinker, and I had to think pretty hard to keep him from doing some dangerous stuff when he was a kid. One day, I heard some hammering going on in his room. Taking that as a clue that his creativity had sprung into high gear, I visited to see what his little brain had concocted. Sure enough, I was just in time. He had made a zip line between his second-story window and the tree across the driveway, attached to his windowsill by one sideways nail. And he was about to try it out. At that point, I had a choice. I could have reacted as my heart wanted to, yelling at him, telling him he had to be crazy to think that one nail would hold him, and that he could have gotten himself killed if I hadn't walked into the room just at that moment. Or I could choose to speak calmly and help him think through things and figure it out himself. The former reaction would squelch his amazing creativity, and the latter would teach him to think through things himself. Somehow I calmly managed to convince him to try it out with a bucket of stuff first, and make a pulley system that he could get all of his equipment out there instead of himself. I also impressed on him the importance of running ideas past adults before trying them out on his own. Then we talked to Papa, who made a zip line on some other trees for him. Reactions or responses to things make a big difference and show what's in our heart. The day Jesus cleansed the temple, John records two different responses. His disciples saw in Jesus' actions a love for the Lord and his house. They remembered a line from a psalm that applied here: "The zeal for your house has eaten me up." The Jewish leaders, on the other hand, felt offended. Oddly enough, they neither admitted Jesus had done right in clearing the temple or accused him of doing wrong. I think it was fairly obvious he had done right, but where did he get his authority? Certainly not from them. Who did he think he was, anyway? And that's another thing. He claimed to be the Son of God when he declared the temple to be my Father's house. They said, "You claim to be from God. Well then, show us a sign." From Jesus' perspective, they had desecrated his temple, where they were supposed to be worshiping him. From the Jewish leaders' perspective, Jesus had desecrated their temple, and if nothing else, lost them a lot of money that day. They obviously had no remorse for what they'd made the temple into. They didn't repent and agree with Jesus that this place of worship was not where oxen, sheep, and doves and money changers belong. They didn't repent because they loved themselves, their own aggrandizement, their own positions, more than they loved God. They loved themselves and their money. They definitely didn't love the people. As Jesus said later, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you travel land and sea to win one proselyte, and when he is won, you make him twice as much a son of hell as yourselves." The response of the Jewish leaders showed their heart, and it was not in line with God's. But the disciples' response showed their awe of who Jesus was and what he had done. When something happens in our lives, our response often shows our heart. Now, I'll have to admit, for me, it's kind of a mixed bag. Some days when something bad happens, my mind goes directly to annoyance, frustration, or anger. Other days I think, okay, what are you trying to teach me from this, Lord? And then other days I excitedly think, it's going to be a new adventure with God. I can't wait to see what he'll do. What has your responses shown about your heart lately?
You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. We'd love to hear the treasures God has given you through his word. You can listen to other episodes on our website, which you can find in the description below. Thank you for listening, and remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.